Remembering people's names makes them feel important. That's exactly what you want your guests to feel like on your events. But how do you remember all those names? Hi Boris, welcome in our studio.
Hello.
Why is remembering people's names so important?
Because it's the biggest chance to make a great impression on them. Everyone loves to hear their name. And actually brain science shows, even within the brain, if you hear your name, it's processed differently. You all know when you are at an event and maybe you speak to someone, but in the distance or at the next table, someone mentions your name, your attention is there. Mm-hmm. So your brain is really fixed on its own name. And if you remember a name, you can grab someone's attention and leave a great impression easily.
But it's so difficult to remember people's names.
It's true, because the name in itself doesn't have a meaning. Maybe it was different in the past. Like maybe you meet someone who's called Mr. Fisher. That means probably an ancestor somewhere in his history was a fisherman, but probably he is not. So it's hard because it doesn't have an inherent meaning. But the good thing is you can put a meaning into it by making it an image. So if someone is called Mr. Fisher, you picture him being a fisher. You will not confuse it with a job, but you remember his name. So it's possible to do it.
Yeah, but my name is Kevin. How can you picture something with my name?
For first names, usually I try to remember someone with the same name. So maybe I already know someone who shares a name who's also called Kevin. It might be a friend of mine who has the same name, so I meet you meeting him, maybe for a glass of beer somewhere. Or if I really have never heard about the name before, I can still try to find some word that sounds similar. So maybe for Kevin, I would split it up, he can win. So he's really motivated for a competition which he can win. And these two words, can win, would remember me, oh, Kevin, that's actually the name.
And that's enough to remember it?
If I hear the name for the first time, I would start the step earlier. Okay. First step is just to understand the name, to recognize the name. And in my opinion, a good way is to also pronounce it myself. So if I meet Kevin, I would say, Kevin, nice to meet you. I use the name myself. So it will first get it into my short-term memory. Because I get these other steps I just mentioned, which are important, they take some kind of attention. But if I meet someone, let's say at an event, I want to talk to them. I want to listen to them. I want to have some small talk maybe and not focus on the step to remember the name. So if I use the name, if I pronounce it myself, I can then go on. And maybe after this first meeting, then I can put some time and thoughts into which images can I come up with to remember the name. And then there's one more step. I have to associate the images with the person. Like if I just say, oh, Kevin, that sounds like Kevin Costner, or he can win. That's not linked to you. I need to see you in this image, associated with the image. I need you meeting my friend Kevin, see you meeting Kevin Costner, or see you eager for the competition that you can win. So I need to see you in the picture. Enables you using the visual memory that has very huge capacity. To keep remembering the names of the future, I need to add one more step, and that is what in science we call the retrieval practice. That means if I met you earlier at the event, and maybe now we head out of a session to the lunch break, and I see you and a few other people in the hallway, if I just spend a brief second to remember, well, what was the name? I test myself on it. And this testing has been shown to be massively improving long-term retention of the name. So improving my chance to remember the name not only in the afternoon of the same event, but maybe in a year when I see you again at a new edition of the conference.
Okay, but you're a world champion in memory skills. I can imagine for you it's easy, but can everybody do this?
Everyone can improve their performance in this kind of things, in particular in remembering names. I have the pleasure to go to many events. Event organizers bring me in often like before a networking session to give a demonstration. I love to begin with memorizing the names of maybe 100 people in the audience during the day. And then in my session, I ask them to raise and welcome all of them by memory. And then I, of course, tell them how I do it, teach the technique. So afterwards, in the networking parts, they can do it themselves. And that's what I always do. That's my job. And I see all the people enjoying it and actually improving their memory. At the end, I'm really proud of having the Guinness World Record for remembering names and faces, and no one else has it. So maybe not everyone can break a record, but everyone can improve from where they are now quite a lot.
Yeah, but you say remembering 100 names. If I'm in a group with 10 people, I can't manage to remember them. And it's just by using that simple technique you just explained.
I would say it's 80% the technique and 20% is training. Of course, if you do it the first time, maybe you hear a name and you think, well, Boris, what should I don't come up with an image for Boris. But then maybe later you think, oh, well, Boris Becker. I could picture this guy, Boris, playing tennis with Boris Becker. So you need a bit of training to come up with the images. And in particular, if the name is more difficult. If it's an English or for a Dutch or maybe German name, it's of course easier than if it's an, let's say, Filipinian or Iranian name. So you will need some training as well. And if you really think you should improve on your memory for names, you can really schedule time for training. There's some great tools online where you can do that. But for most people, I would recommend by just using the technique, you have some training. And maybe if you watch a show today, there will be other guests. Maybe use the technique as a viewer today to remember their names, to think, well, I'm just watching it now, right, anyway. So what kind of image could I maybe make up to remember the name of this person? And by doing so, you train yourself. And you have also the additional benefit that a few moments later, when you see the person again, I know the name, yes, you have the success with it. And then you start believing and still see you're questioning me a little, which is fair. But if you tried it a few times and had the success, of course, then you believe in yourself and then you get the training and then you can massively improve exactly with this method. When I set my world record, it was exactly the method, just I already had a few years of training in it, of course. I didn't set it the first day I heard about the technique, but after doing it for a few years.
I can imagine your keynote is a very great kickoff of a networking event.
It's what I'm often invited to do, so I love to do that, and then also stick around afterwards. I also love the variety of things I can do. Of course, I'm also invited for events that maybe kick off in general, like a learning program or an additional education program, whereas I really wanted people to know these memory techniques to reduce the time maybe needed for learning something in the course afterwards. So the variety of things I get to do is quite nice, but kicking off networking is one part of it for sure.
Okay, Boris Becker, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, Kevin.
And you at home, thank you for watching our show. I hope to see you next week.